This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer reporting. Good evening. Yet another possible espionage case has come to light. The Air Force confirmed today that an officer who was once stationed at a key intelligence gathering station in Germany is being questioned about allegations that he sold classified information. The Air Force called the officer, quote, under restriction. Pentagon correspondent David Martin reports.
Air Force Captain John Vladimir Hirsch is restricted to Kelly Air Force Base in Texas, where he is being investigated for suspicious activities while assigned to a sensitive listening post in West Berlin. Pentagon officials say Hirsch, a naturalized American citizen born in Czechoslovakia, first aroused suspicions when he failed a lie detector test. Air Force investigators searched his apartment and car and found classified NATO documents, uncashed paychecks, and records of bank accounts containing $120,000. Pentagon officials also say Hirsch traveled frequently to other countries in Europe, including 8 trips to Vienna, a classic meeting place for spies.
The fear, of course, is that Hirsch sold secrets to the Soviet bloc. But Pentagon officials say the only thing they can prove right now is that he had unauthorized access to sensitive documents. These officials say Hirsch is not cooperating with investigators.
Hirsch had a top-secret security clearance and worked as an engineer for the 690th Electronic Security Wing at Tempelhof Airport in West Berlin.
Most likely he would have access to information about the specific workings and capabilities of certainly the radar system and possibly some of the communications intelligence equipment at other locations.
A number of American military men have been convicted of spying in recent years, and officials say several others have been quietly discharged for activities which were believed but could not be proved to be espionage. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
Felix Bloch, the U.S. diplomat who's been linked but not charged with espionage, continues to be the most scrutinized stroller in Washington. Today, the National Zoo was where Bloch showed up with the usual dozens of FBI agents, reporters, and photographers in tow. They got their usual exercise as the government again refused to say exactly what Bloch's status is or what it intends to do or not do about his case. In the Middle East, nothing is ever certain, but there were more signs today that at least some progress is being made in diffusing the hostage crisis. Ellen Pizzi is in Damascus and has more on that.
For Beirut residents, today was just another day of misery. Wounded from last night's shelling filled hospitals, the fortunate cleared up the damage. But there was a new sense of optimism in the Beirut hostage crisis. Algeria has taken a leading role as mediator, and Algerian radio announced that some progress had already been made. The Algerians said they got involved at the request of UN Undersecretary Marek Goulding, although the U.S. is also believed to have sought Algerian assistance. Goulding met today with Lebanese Christian leader General Michel Aoun. That may be because some of the kidnappers of Western hostages are demanding the release of 4 Iranians abducted by Christian forces in 1982. They're widely believed to be dead. Meanwhile, a Lebanese Christian priest, acting on behalf of Pope John Paul II, met Shiite Muslim leaders to try and help Goulding determine the fate of Marine Lieutenant Colonel William Higgins, whose captors said he had been hanged. Goulding's UN-guarded convoy needed another kind of help to get around some of Beirut's rougher areas. Later in Damascus, the UN man warned of undue optimism in solving the hostage problem.
There are no quick fixes in this. No quick fixes at all, no simple solutions. There will be a solution if a lot of different people all push together.
Iran's new conciliatory attitude towards the U.S. is seen as a crucial element.
A source involved in the negotiations told CBS News Iran had exerted what he called incredible pressure on the kidnappers not to harm one finger of anyone. The source also said the U.S. government was, as he put it, doing a lot more than they are telling. Alan Pizzi, CBS News, Damascus.
In line with that, the Sunday Times of London is reporting tomorrow that the new Iranian president, Rafsanjani, sent a secret message to President Bush expressing revulsion at Colonel Higgins' killing and dispatched his brother to Beirut to urge the kidnappers to spare the life of hostage Sicipio. The fallout from this latest incident brought new strains to U.S. relations with Israel, of course, since it was an Israeli capture of the man allegedly behind Colonel Higgins' kidnapping that touched off the crisis. Bill Plant now with more on that side of the story.
The grumbling over Israel's abduction of Sheikh Obaid began turning angry when this grisly image was flashed from Damascus Monday. Even some friends of Israel began to say out loud that this time it had gone too far.
And today I'm not happy that one of our closest and most important allies, Israel, has also struck out alone, freelancing, if you will, apparently in the interest of gaining leverage to win the release of some of its citizens held hostage.
Former U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Samuel Lewis, says strains occur because the interests of the two nations may be similar, but they aren't identical.
They have to make judgments about their security in that very nasty part of the world, and those judgments here in Washington look different, and they look different to a nation that has worldwide responsibilities.
The emotional and strategic ties between the U.S. and Israel may be based on shared democratic values, but this past week is by no means the first time those ties have been severely tested. In 1982, when Israel invaded Lebanon, President Reagan personally intervened with Prime Minister Begin to stop the bombing. And the revelation that Israeli intelligence was using American citizen Jonathan Pollard to spy on the U.S. led to a very rough patch in relations.
Good to see you, Senator. Good to see you.
Good. So this week, interest groups like the Anti-Defamation League worked Capitol Hill to keep the focus on those who grabbed American hostages in the first place.
To be held hostage as a country almost by the Hezbollah or what have you is something that most Americans have real trouble coming to grips with.
And by the time the deadline had passed on Joseph Sicipio's death sentence, most of the blame seemed to have shifted away from Israel.
Actually, let's give Israel credit. They had the guts to do what our own government won't do, and that's to go after these malicious Shiite Muslims.
But Israel did something else as well. It forced the whole hostage issue to the top of the administration's agenda.
It takes a crisis to get the U.S. government to mobilize enough resources to begin to address sometimes a very thorny issue, and perhaps this crisis will have that effect.
But the issues are thorny indeed. If the hostages are to be freed, Iran will surely demand both promises and money, Iran's own frozen assets, from the U.S. A deal, in other words. But U.S. policy is firm, no deals. Israel can probably help, but a deal isn't likely to come easily or soon. Bill Plant, CBS News, the State Department.
And later, we'll examine how George Bush handled the first major crisis of his presidency. And then Bruce Morton will have a report on a women's group that's taking the abortion rights battle to the campaign trail.
Compaq is the leader in performance and intelligent innovation.
Martin, we've got an hour tops. Make or break.
Hey, it's made.
Compaq has gone the extra mile for today's power-hungry users.
Give me next quarter's figures. Yes.
Compaq has consistently shown engineering excellence.
10 minutes to spare. That's hardly even exciting, Martin.
Speak for yourself.
Only Red Lobster could create an event this big. Lobster Fest 89. Lobster choices like nowhere else, starting at just $7.95. Get ready to savor sweet rock lobster or luscious Maine lobster. New platters like lobster and crab. Great lobster dishes starting at just $7.95. Kids dinner $1.95. Don't miss Lobster Fest, now at Red Lobster. Friday through Sunday, it's our weekend special. Steak and shrimp, just $10.95.
Some food today can be over-processed by chemicals and machines until it is no longer what it was meant to be. That's why we long for good things from the earth, the taste of Kellogg's Mueslix. Wheat and oats tended with care and washed by the summer rain. Fruit and nuts rich and sweet with ripeness. Savor the taste of what breakfast was meant to be. Kellogg's Mueslix.
Congress gave final approval today to a $157 billion bailout of the savings and loan industry. Then the senators and representatives bailed out of Washington for their summer recess. Linda Tyra reports.
Good night.
It was after midnight when weary members finally closed up shop for the rest of August, leaving behind some major unfinished business. Topping the list, whether to cut the capital gains tax to lower the federal deficit, a move backed by the White House but opposed by Democrats.
We'll try to have an alternative that we think is better for middle-income families, fairer to people at the bottom of the economic scale, better for the economy, and certainly better for the deficit.
Other issues facing Congress, the continuing probe of corruption at HUD, and in its own House, new ethics legislation and campaign finance reform.